There are only two emotions allowed when talking about week 12 of the college football season. There's happy, which is we got some knockdown, drag out games. College football playoff hopes are on the line. I cannot wait to see what's on our television screens. And then there's only a few more weeks of college football. It just felt like it started yesterday and we're at the finish line and there's no in between. But we do have some great matchups in the SEC this weekend. Some that will ultimately determine who is going to the college football playoff. And as always, let's go ahead and give you our tier rankings for week 12. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, the link in the description. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're proudly fueled by our friends over at FanDuel. Simply sign up today at fanduel.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. The app is simple, free, and easy to use. Sign up today at fanduel.com/SECU. Now, as always, we have our tier rankings. It doesn't mean I think one team is better than the other. It just means where you fall in the pecking order. Always feel like I got to throw that disclaimer out. Let's not waste any time. Some movement this week. In fact, we only have 6 tiers instead of the usual 8. Let's start off where we always do. Not with Kentucky, but basketball season has officially arrived. Arkansas, Florida, and Auburn. All three of you have an opportunity to cut down the nets. All three of you have an opportunity to generate massive income this upcoming season. All three of you have an opportunity to truly be built different on the hardwood. But your seasons are over in football. Auburn, you may be bowl eligible. Doesn't really matter at this point. Florida, you may be bowl eligible. Doesn't really matter at this point. You just benched your starting quarterback, the 5-star phenom from Willis, Texas. Arkansas, I don't even know what to say about you guys anymore. You haven't won a game since September, and you have a quarterback that was wasted away out in Fayetteville this past year. But at least you have basketball season. At least you got John Calipari. At least you got Todd Golden. At least you got whatever the hell you want to call Stephen Pearl's team right now. Basketball season on the horizon out at all 3 locations. Don't even worry about football anymore. The preseason lies. South Carolina and LSU, you haven't moved. South Carolina has to win out to guarantee its spot in a bowl game. And they have games against Texas A&M, they have games against Clemson, and they have games against Coastal Carolina. They have a quarterback that many of us thought could win the Heisman Trophy, and a defense that, while it lost some pieces, went out in the portal and brought in the right names. I was very high on South Carolina, at least being back in that 9-3, 8-4 conversation. And the offensive line has been a turnstile. They already fired their offensive coordinator. There is no life when it comes to the rushing attack with Rasul Faison. They will be lucky to finish the year at 4-8, if I'm being completely transparent. And that just feels like a slap in the face for all the good graces I gave to South Carolina this offseason. And now the big question turns to, what do you do offensively? What do you do with Lenore Sellers? What do you do with this team to make sure you never feel this low again underneath Shane Beamer? And better yet, what happens if Shane Beamer loses to Coastal Carolina? Is he even your head coach in 2026? That's going to be a question for another day. Now, we do know that LSU is going to have a new head coach in 2026. And it's a shame because I did buy into the notion that LSU would at least be a college football playoff team. Now, I never bought in that they would win the national title. I didn't think that they'd be in the running to go to South Beach. But I thought that they'd be a playoff team, compete alongside Alabama and Georgia and Texas and a few others for a berth in the college football playoff conversation, maybe even an SEC title, and things went south. You still can't run the football. Luckily, your defense is elite, and that's why Blake Baker's going to get paid an abhorrent amount to stick around with the program long term. But you don't have a quarterback situation that goes in your favor right now. The wide receivers aren't breaking on through. Your offensive line is a turnstile and a factory of sadness. And unfortunately, your schedule isn't doing you any favors. You get to face off against Arkansas this weekend. There are people who believe the Hogs are going to come into Death Valley and silence that on a Saturday morning. That's not a good look for you. And this was a team that we all envisioned to at least be somewhere in the top 15. I don't even have to go as far to say you envisioned them to be a college football playoff team, but call a spade a spade. You did not expect this to be on your television screens out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's why the preseason lies. Bowl bid? Bowl bid. 2 teams are in this category, Mississippi State and Kentucky. Kentucky, welcome out of the cellar, Kentucky. And I think all of us here at SEC Unfiltered apologize to you. We did not know your game. We did not realize that you'd be able to come to the table and end the turmoil that was the Hugh Freeze era. And then, to add more good graces, beat up on Florida. Don't even make it a game. And now you're sitting with an opportunity to play against Tennessee Tech. You win that game, you're at 5 wins. Now, you still got to close some things out. You're nowhere near close to the job being finished, but it's a lot better. Vanderbilt at Louisville. As long as you were able to win one, you are going to a bowl game. And now we have to have a legit conversation about what's Mark Stoops' overall process going into the offseason. Do we want him back next year? Do we think that if we just fix a few little things on this side of the football or this side of the football, he's going to get us back to that 9-10 win range? He loves Lexington. I don't think he wants to leave because of that. He understands what the buyout is, but also he's making a lot of money to be a really, really good coach at an average program. Is that something to where now we see Mitch Barnhart look back and go, you went 6-6, you won your bowl game, you're 7-6. Nobody expected us to do anything this year. Welcome back, brother. And now Mississippi State. It feels like that the Kamario Taylor era is upon us. They're going to go off on the road to Columbia to take on Missouri. And they still have a good offense. They have a great rushing attack and a headliner in Davin Booth and Flott Bothwell. They have a wide receiver who currently, I kid you not, if you look at the stat, it was even shocking to me, leads the SEC in receiving yards and yards after catch. That's Brennan Thompson. And Anthony Evans has been a godsend coming on over from the other Bulldogs program. So overall, if you win this game, you have an opportunity to be bowl eligible. And then if you go to a bowl game, well, you could be 7-6. That's a winning season in year 2 for Jeff Levy. A lot of us thought, hey, you go 4-8, you win one SEC game, you're in a good spot. You lose to Arizona State, no problem. You beat a top 15 Arizona State team. You also held Texas in check all the way down to the finish line, and then you didn't, but, we don't have to talk about that. You went toe-to-toe with Tennessee in your backyard. There's been improvements for this team. You just haven't been able to close the door. Can you do so in Columbia on Saturday night? Because if not, I don't think you're going to be bowl eligible because I just don't see Ole Miss losing the Egg Bowl for some reason. Winning solves all coaching qualms. There are 2 coaches who are currently being rumored for openings around the conference and just around college football in general. One is Missouri. Missouri right now has a little bit of an anemic offense. They can run the football with Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy. They have a top 20 defense. They're great on the line of scrimmage. But the question comes to, what is Matt Zollers? And I'll tell you what, if Matt Zollers is as we've seen the last 2 games, I don't know if Missouri will win another game this upcoming season. They have matchups against Oklahoma and Arkansas after they face off against Mississippi State. And I say all this because when you win games and you see that there is a bright future, coaches are more lenient to go ahead and listen to offers elsewhere. Eli Drinkwitz fits what Columbia needs. He is the perfect blend of crazy, out of left field, and nonsensical, we don't care what you think, boil it all up into one Arkansasian that has made Columbia his home. But the grass sometimes is greener and money talks. And that's where Penn State gets involved. And that's where LSU gets involved. And that is where Florida gets involved. And while he may not be the favorite for any of those jobs, if eventually they come calling and throw enough green in his face, he may look at Columbia in a completely different light. But if you win out and you go 9-3, and that's now 3 straight years of potential 10-win seasons, it's a little bit easier to say, if I fix this, and my quarterback doesn't get hurt, lo and behold, we're in the college football playoff. Especially with our schedule. We'll be good next year. We feel really prominent about where we are as a program. All we got to do is just fix these little details. But it doesn't happen if you don't win games. So these games coming up are really dire. And Tennessee's on this list too. I don't know if many of you were listening to SEC Unfiltered's The Overtime Drive last night. But if you were, Chris Phillips presented a rumor. And I can concur, this is not the first time I've heard it. If Josh Heupel's presented by the folks down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for an opportunity to become the Tigers' next man in command, he may take it. And you got to understand, Josh Heupel's been able to change the culture for the long better in Knoxville. Nobody has been able to accomplish what Josh Heupel has. He has been the reason why we talk about their offense being so dynamic. He's been the reason why they have led the SEC multiple years in top scoring. He is the reason why they have been to a college football playoff. He is the reason why Alabama has lost games in the third Saturday in October. He is the reason why we have seen top 25 finishes nearly every year. He is the reason why the buy-in is so high right now. And it feels like still it's not enough because it's not 1998 and he's not winning national titles like Fulmer is. He's the best thing to come through Knoxville since Philip Fulmer and probably since the big pilot team. And we're being completely honest here. And there have been people, not most, I'll be completely real, not most Tennesseans are doing this, but there have been people out there saying, we can do better than Josh Heupel. All right, cool, prove it. Because if you don't win games, You find a way to lose to Florida and you find a way to lose to Vanderbilt to close out the year, and you're sitting at 7-5. And he knows that his ass is on the hot seat in the eyes of those who bleed the orange and white in the checkered pattern. He may say, you know what? The grass is greener down in Baton Rouge. It's a little bit easier to recruit. It's a little bit easier to make sure I guarantee I keep homegrown talent here. And I get to hit reset on my hot pressure cooker. I'm going to go ahead and take that job. But if you win, you show 9-3 season, potentially with the bowl game, you get to 10-3, solves everything. Got a good overall offensive identity, bringing back a lot of young talent. Got some defensive players that you can bank on being back in the saddle and kneeling next season. Let's wait on everything. But I think it's very clear that these two coaches, you start winning, solves a lot of issues and quiets a lot of flames about them potentially taking jobs elsewhere around the SEC. Winning, you're in. That's all it takes. If you win out, you are in the college football playoff. That's Vanderbilt, that's Texas, that's Oklahoma. Because let's just call a spade a spade. A 10-2 college football team in the SEC is not being left out of the playoff. And I don't know if we would see that for every school, but I think in the SEC, you'd be good. Vanderbilt would still have multiple wins against then current top 25 teams. And they would also have a win over a rival in the backyard, which is one of the toughest places to play, Neyland Stadium, against a probably Tennessee ranked roster. So they would have 3 ranked wins when the wins happened, and they would also have one of the most polarizing players in college football in Diego Pavia. And whether or not we want to say that Vanderbilt, because of it is a lowly Vanderbilt, would guarantee its spot in the playoff, let me remind you, this is run by a television company. Television companies want what? Ratings. And I promise you there are enough people who will hate watch number 2 get mollywopped by some team from the Big 10 or maybe some team from the Big 12 just to guarantee he is in the playoff. They would love to see that. So Vanderbilt would be in at 10-2. And then Texas and Oklahoma speak for themselves. The big time brands, but also the big time wins would guarantee their spot in. Now, it all starts this weekend because Texas has to face off against Georgia and Oklahoma has to face off against Alabama. If both those teams lose, you basically are begging for other people to mess it up. That way you can backdoor cover your way on in. But it's possible that you both could win. Texas has an offense that we've seen the last 6 quarters that is top 3 in the SEC. If that shows up between the hedges, I'll tell you what, Texas is winning this football game. If the version of what we saw against Vanderbilt and Mississippi State in the second half is available and you get a Ryan Niblett punt return for a touchdown, plus the healthiness of the defense, you get back Jelani McDonald, you get back Mookie Tapp, you feel good about your trench play, you're going to win this football game. I don't care what they say about Sanford Stadium. But if you turn back into the same offense that we saw that played toe-to-toe with Kentucky, or the one that we saw in the first half against Oklahoma, or the one that, God forbid, we saw at times against UTEP, you're not winning a football game for the rest of the year. That's just the bottom line. So what version shows on up? I trust the defense, can I trust the offense? And then Oklahoma, you know what I think about them? They constantly are like the next chapter of a really good book. I'm impressed. Every single week, something new I learn about this team. And it's making me more enticed. Hey, they can't run the football. They're a lowly offense that doesn't know how to ground and pound it. They've had a 100-yard runner the last 4 games. And Xavier Robinson has turned the tide and turned into a really good player. They only trust Deion Burks in the pass attack. Isaiah Satenga is the leading receiver. He's top 10 in the SEC. Oh, by the way, he's averaging 73 yards per game and 18 yards per catch. You think Alabama's ready for that guy? Oh, but then we got to talk about their defense. How well, they allowed Ole Miss to be able to kind of capitalize on them. They forced 3 turnovers and were outgained by 200 yards against Tennessee and won the game soundly. And Tate Sandell, even when wearing booty shorts, still knows how to boot that thing 50 yards through the uprights. They're a fun team to watch right now. So I learned something new about Oklahoma every week. I'm interested to see what I'm going to learn this week. Is this the Heisman moment that we were talking about for John Mateer? Is this the moment where Ben Arbuckle proves he was the right guy to lead the charge, leaving Pullman, Washington? Is this the game where we all realize Brent Venables is pretty freaking good at his job, and we probably were just overrating what was last season being a relapse year because of it's new to the SEC and it was a daunting schedule? We're going to learn something new about Oklahoma this weekend. I can promise you that. What we learn is a big reason why we could see them in the playoff. But like any good book, there's a twist. And the twist could be, well, maybe Tennessee really wasn't that good. South Carolina stunk, and we shot ourselves in the foot against Ole Miss. Welcome to the party, Alabama. You're going to the playoff because you kicked the crap out of Oklahoma. And then the final category this week, 4 quarters from Immortality. Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Now, maybe asking about Georgia, and we'll start with them. Why is Georgia in the 4 quarters from Immortality? Plain and simple. They face off against Charlotte and they face off against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Even if they were to lose the Georgia Tech game, they would be at 10-2 with 1 loss in conference play. They'd be 7-1. You're not keeping Georgia out of the college football playoff. You're not. They'd be too damn good. They'd have wins over Texas. They'd have wins over Ole Miss. They'd have wins over Tennessee and Florida. And the only loss would be to potentially an Alabama squad that currently is playing in Atlanta for its first SEC title post Nick Saban. Feels pretty damn good. Like, that's a resume that you can hold your hat on to. And if they win this one, they certainly are going to beat against who? Charlotte next week. So no problem there. Now we're talking about a 10-win team. They're locked into the playoff, in my opinion. As for Ole Miss, got the Kiffin Bowl this weekend. Who's coming to town? The team that is salivating at the opportunity to steal your head coach from you. I think that is a recipe to where absolutely Lane is going to unleash the hounds. He is going to make everybody realize, I'm happy here in Oxford. And that doesn't mean that he won't leave and he won't take the job out in Gainesville, but he'll make it clear, this is what's been missing by your side. If you want me to come down here and fix your mistake, you got to owe me a lot of money. Because here's what I'm doing with a fair state quarterback. Here's what I'm doing with a bunch of guys that I didn't think were going to get me to the college football playoff. Here's what I'm doing with a bunch of newcomers at wide receiver and an offensive line that does have a lot of tempo, but was underrated going into the season, and a running back that couldn't break out at Mizzou. Now he's leading the SEC in rushing touchdowns. You want to go ahead and buy my love? Here's what the asking price is. Because I'm going to show you what it takes to win by beating the crap out of you in the process. When they do that, they're going to be sitting with 10 wins. They're in the college football playoff. Alabama, you win this game, you get Eastern Illinois. That'll put you at 11 wins. 11-1, even with a loss to Florida State, you're in the playoff. That'll put you at 10 wins, and you're going to beat Eastern Illinois. So maybe I'm putting the wagon before the horse a little bit when it comes to Georgia and Alabama, but still, you shouldn't lose to Eastern Illinois if you can beat up on Oklahoma. Big question is, can you have your offense back to what it was when you faced off against Georgia? You knew how to run the football. Jam Miller was able to go ahead and create separation at the line of scrimmage. You're hitting your receivers in stride. You're excellent on third down communication, because those have been some things that have hurt Alabama over the last 2 games. Struggling to be able to connect deep downfield with Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard from Ty Simpson. The inability to trust the ground game. And unfortunately, at this point, I think that's just the reality of your team. And what about when it comes to your overall offensive line play? This is going to be the best defensive line you have seen all year. I can promise you that. There's not a better defense that you will see than Georgia's front 7 in 2025. Maybe Ohio State, but we'll get to that bridge if we ever cross it. Regardless, you need to be able to come on out and prove to everybody that you're still the same Bama. You're still the same team that was always destined to run it back and win a national title. And if your offense can do that, your defense has been the backbone of your team. So guess what? You're in a pretty damn good spot to have that happen for you. And Texas A&M, as long as you win out, you're going to be in the college football playoff. You win on Saturday, it's a guaranteed 10-win season. And there's a lot of people out there that still have the battered Aggie syndrome saying we could find a way to lose this one. You could, but you're not losing to Samford. And even if you lose to Texas, you're at 10-2. But don't worry about that. Just worry about this game. Worry about making sure that you play your best brand of football in front of your hometown crowd for what is the final SEC game of 2025 at Kyle Field. Just worry about that, because everything else is there. You've crossed off every single red flag that I have for you. Can't run the football. No, you can do that with 4 different dudes. Got a quarterback that's turnover prone. Well, he's looked a lot better in the recent weeks, and he's also got 2 great weapons that bail him out of trouble. Don't have a third weapon. Nope, you definitely got that with number 3. And you also got that with Terry Bussey, who may have a big-time role in this matchup. Your defensive line only has 1 pass rusher. Well, Cash Howell is really elite, and everybody else is pretty damn good. Well, your secondary still has some question marks from a season ago when you lost to USC. Oh, what a dumb thing to say in the offseason. Your coach is probably going to leave you for a different school eventually because all you are Texas 8-4. Well, you can't be Texas 8-4 this year because you're 9-0. So that joke is over. Texas A&M looks like the most complete team in the SEC. They end up continuing down this path. They win on Saturday, just like Alabama and Georgia and Ole Miss. Your 4 quarters from Immortality. So those are our tier rankings for this week. Win out and you're in. Vanderbilt, Texas, Oklahoma. Winning solves the coaching qualms for Tennessee and Mizzou. Bowl bid for Mississippi State and Kentucky. The preseason lies still remains for South Carolina and LSU. and Arkansas, Florida, and Auburn. At least basketball season has arrived. Let me know in the comment section down below what tier rankings you think fit for every one of your schools. Like, review, hit subscribe. And as always, let me tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel right now, with the start of the NBA season, is helping you win some money. Go sign up, FanDuel.com/SECU. It will only cost you $5. You throw down that $5 bet. Let's just say it's going to be on the Houston Rockets to win this weekend against the Portland Trail Blazers. That bet cashes in. You cash in with $300 in bonus bets. You can do anything from same-game parlays, player props, and so much more. Now is the time to sign on up with the college football playoff about to be in swing, with the NBA action fully back, the NHL season on the ice, and so many other player props that you can have. The only question is, are you ready to play? Sign up today at FanDuel.com/SECU. Week 12 is upon us. And once again, really, really sad, but excited, but really sad. Wonder what we're going to see in the tier rankings for week 13. I'm Cole Thompson. Peace.